On. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going? We are here to talk about the big SWTOR news. I think in general, most SWTOR players, whether you're present or past, we were all kind of waiting for like two announcements to happen. And I think today's announcement is one of those announcements, just in a modified form. But here today, I want to talk about it. I want to cover as many angles as possible. I want to sort of give you my thoughts and feelings and what is going to happen to Star Wars: The Old Republic. So, for those who don't know, the news of the day is that Star Wars: The Old Republic is no longer going to be developed by Bioware, and has moved on to a studio that is called Broadsword. And we'll get into who they are here in just a minute. The thing you have to know about an MMO, like if you ask any developer who makes games, and you ask them the question of, what is the most difficult game to make? They will tell you it's an MMO. MMOs require hundreds and hundreds of people working many, many years to not only make a great game that launches great, but to keep it running for a long period of time with a lot of content. And honestly, SWTOR has not had that in a very long time. I don't have any kind of timeline in front of me, but starting somewhere after about year 4, 5-ish, we started to see that drop off. And just kind of like year after year after year, it seemed like there were fewer developers, less content, so forth and so on. And so people have been screaming for a very, very long time on just, what is happening with this game? Why was Bioware and EA not able to make this as big as something like World of Warcraft or Destiny or, insert, random popular MMO? So, a couple of other things to note. And just MMOs are just very difficult to make, as I said. Funny enough, this article that we're looking at right here is from IGN, and they're like, we gave SWTOR a 9 out of 10 when we reviewed it in 2011. So the game reviewed well. It had a lot of problems even from the start. But going back to an MMO needing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of developers, you have to remember that not only does SWTOR need that, but when it comes to MMOs in general, SWTOR is one of the more complicated MMOs because of the sheer amount of writing and voice acting that goes into this game. Now, one of the questions that I've had, and many other people have had over the past even couple years in particular, is how many developers really are currently working on SWTOR? And we actually got an answer to that today, because my guess was somewhere between 20 and 30 full-time, and then maybe upward of 90 or so, part-time or something in that mix. And so as part of the information that came out today, apparently the number is around 80. And so in the meeting or meetings that happened today, they apparently gave the employees an option to, if you want to continue to work on this game, we will let you go work for that other company, Broadsword. And apparently, according to the information that's out there, about half of that, so about 40 of the developers, are going to move from Bioware to Broadsword. So that's pretty interesting. But again, going back to what we were just saying about needing hundreds of developers to make this successful, you're not going to do that with 40. And Broadsword isn't going to hire 200 developers for this. That's not how this is going to work. So let's jump into, like, who is this Broadsword? So funny enough, Broadsword was actually a spin-off studio of Bioware, EA, and Mythic, I believe. So they're currently running 2 games. And as you can see here, the 2 games are the 25-year-old Ultimate Online and the 21-year-old Dark Age of Camelot. So basically what has happened here is they have taken SWTOR and they've put it in the retirement home. So one of the big questions is going to be, is this game dead? Is it in maintenance mode? No. They're putting it in the retirement home, and they're going to keep it going for as long as possible. It's just with those 40-some devs, we are going to see even a less amount of content than what you've seen over the past 2 years. And I can pretty much guarantee you a good chunk of that content is going to be cartel market. My guess, my theory, is that on a month-to-month, quarterly-to-quarterly update for SWTOR, you'll see more cartel market stuff than anything else in the game. Because that's how they're going to make their money. And when you talk about something in maintenance mode, you look at something like Anthem. Anthem is a perfect example of a game that is actually in maintenance mode. Like, literally, the game is up, they have the servers running, and that's it. They are doing nothing to that game. No bug fixes, no content, nothing. That is maintenance mode. So SWTOR will still receive some content, just not that much. So that's kind of what is happening with the game. The one big question mark in all of this is the fact that Star Wars is a licensed IP. We don't 100% know what the deal is that they made for this game. How often do they have to renew their license? How much does that cost? Because in real life, I actually know something a little about licensing. I actually work with college licensing. And I can tell you the deals are generally done on a yearly basis. And they have to be renewed every year, and you are paying fees every single year. A lot of times, depending on the situation, there can also be like royalty fees and stuff like that. So just based on that knowledge, I would say that they're probably having to renew this every year. It's probably costing them money. So at what point is it not worth renewing that? And with today's news, this is not the type of news that's going to be like massive as far as getting new players in the game. This is the type of news that is going to deter people, and it's further pushing people away from the game. So it's really not their goal to bring in new players. It's just to maintain what they have and try and make money. I mean, we'll see what Broadsword does. Maybe they have some kind of crazy plan to kickstart this thing, but the track record definitely goes against that. And I don't really keep up with Ultima and Dark Age of Camelot. I mean, other than, again, they're like super old games. But like, I don't know how much content these games get on a yearly basis and how much money they're making and all that. I mean, we might be able to here real quick on the fly look at player numbers. I'm curious here real quick. I wonder if I can use this magic website to let's see here. Dark Age of... I don't even know if it's on Steam. So Dark Age of Camelot might have its own launcher. Yeah, I'm not really seeing it. And then Ultima Online. Let's see. I've also never played either of these games. They're way before I was getting into MMOs. I don't know about you guys. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm not able to pull up stats. But it's interesting stuff. Definitely interesting stuff. EA has given a response to IGN, and the response is right there. It's nothing like mind-blowing. It's basically just like, yeah, we want to do what's best for the players, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, the core reason, which we haven't gotten into yet, the core reason that Bioware is doing this is they want to focus on Dragon Age and Mass Effect. So they're essentially getting themselves down to 2 games. And with the failure of Anthem, we all know that Bioware, they need a win. They need a big, successful launch, which they have not had in a long time. So it's basically all hands on deck for this next Dragon Age game, which is scheduled for 2024. So if that game doesn't hit, they're in some trouble. I will say that I think over the next few days, it's going to be very interesting to watch Twitter. A lot of the SWTOR developers are very active on Twitter. So I want to know which developers are moving over to Broadsword and which ones have decided to stay and work on Mass Effect and Dragon Age. I mean, personally, me, if I was at Bioware, I would much rather work on something new rather than something old. It'll also give you, if you know, at some point down the road, if you're looking for a new job, it's always about references as well. You know, would you rather say, oh yeah, I worked on SWTOR for 15 years, or I did work on SWTOR, but I also put out a Dragon Age, I put out a Mass Effect. Looks a lot better on the resume. It's also going to be interesting to see what type of content Broadsword actually puts out. I mean, are they able to actually keep up with all of the voice acting and all that fun stuff? I mean, that's going to be a little bit outside their wheelhouse because their other 2 games don't have anything like that. Not to this degree. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for them. So yeah, really interesting stuff. I'm kind of looking over chat here to see if anybody has any questions. Jalen says Ultimate Online was your first MMO. Yeah, Andrew Wilson, the CEO of EA, talks about how SWTOR has, like, didn't it, like, just hit $1 billion, or it's very, very close to $1 billion. Also, display name, I don't know if you know or not, but Casey Hudson actually left again. Yeah, he actually started his own studio, but he came back as GM, and then he left again. Jalen says Ultimate Online has 4K active players. And Dark Age, Camelot is about the same. So that's just slightly under what SWTOR's doing. But no, I fully expect the numbers to drop. We'll have to keep an eye on it over the next couple months. Yeah, BioWare over the last about 2 years, let's say, BioWare has had a major problem with keeping their best developers. Like, when you look back at who made Dragon Age, who made Mass Effect, or even who made the original KOTOR, you know, the people who really made BioWare, probably 90% of those people have left the company in the last 2 years. So it's been very strange. Like there's just something that's been happening at Bioware. And I would say the issues with Anthem did not help. There's some very good, very in-depth articles that go into what was happening with Anthem development. It's a good read if you want to check it out. But basically, the short version of the story is, and as you may or may not know, BioWare has multiple studios, multiple locations. And so basically they had a split leadership team, and the leadership of the two studios were essentially fighting each other. And so it just completely destroyed the project. Yeah, Mark Dara was another one who quit. He was Mr. Dragon Age. And just recently, he didn't come back like into BioWare, but he essentially agreed to be like a consultant on Dragon Age again. But yeah, bottom line is, SWTOR is not dead, at least not yet. It's not going into maintenance mode. You're still going to get content. How long could it possibly stay around? I mean, based on Broadsword's track record, the answer could be forever, as long as they want to keep paying the fees for the licensing stuff. But no, it could be a thing where they get everything moved over and it shuts down in a couple years. Or again, like with Ultima and Dark Age, it could be around for another 20 years. I mean, I do think SWTOR is a great game. I think it's one of the best MMOs out there. But just over the years, just the development and marketing and so many things that went with it just completely destroyed it. Even though they were still doing good stuff. It's a weird case. Yeah. Mikey in chat says, what marketing? Exactly. There was no marketing for a long time. Like, today's news is like some of the, like, most I've seen on, SWTOR in news articles in a long time. So yeah, we'll see what happens. They didn't give any kind of date on when this is going to happen. They also confirmed that all current content that they're planning on releasing looks to be on track. So this could be a thing that, takes a year to set up or a half year to set up, or, it's hard to say. It really is. I don't know. Any other questions or thoughts from chat? Oh, one other thing that was brought up was, there are more Star Wars games that are being made. And the one from Ubisoft could, in theory, be an MMO style game, and so that's maybe another reason why they did this. Now, funny enough, we should see something on the Ubisoft Star Wars game this week during Summer Game Fest. And Ubisoft has their own show, and that might even be next Monday. But yeah, somewhere between the Ubisoft show and Summer Game Fest, we should get the unveil, hopefully, of what this next Star Wars game is. How is this going to impact the KOTOR remake? No impact whatsoever. So the KOTOR remake was being done by Asper Studios, They had a bunch of problems, and so it got moved over to Saber Interactive. And there were some articles here in the past week or two that said that the KOTOR remake is continuing to have problems. There was a statement from the CEO of, I want to say Embracer Group. I could be misremembering that. And he was asked, like, how's the KOTOR remake happening? And he was like, no comment. That's literally what he said. He had like a sigh, and he's like, no comment. So that's not a good sign. I mean, if you're being like a business professional, you could say like, yeah, development is still happening on that game. It's a ways out, but you know, we're still working on it. But he didn't say that. He just was like, ugh. So that's not good. So that KOTOR remake could be dead. We just don't know yet. Somebody was asking about numbers. Yeah, apparently SWTOR was down to like 80-some developers. And only half are transferring. But yeah, the big question, as I mentioned earlier, so if 40 devs are moving from Bioware to Broadsword, is that just it? Is that going to be the team, or is Broadsword going to bring on more? Mate, my guess would be that's probably it. They're not going to bring on any more. Because they probably have their set number of devs for like Ultima and Dark Age of Camelot. And they're like, all right, here's our new SWTOR team. We're bringing in these 40 people. And that's it. There's no other games being supported out of Bioware Austin. Yeah, just Dragon Age Mass Effect. You're saying that the Broadsword website says they're like looking for people? I mean, every company is always hiring. I'm not saying that they're not going to hire, but... What? Not found. Oh, they're looking for one person. They're looking for a network operations engineer. So yeah. Oh, was there another job section somewhere? So does that mean there's only going to be the Bioware Edmonton left? I would assume all those people are going to move to a new office somewhere. Or go remote. That's, you know, that's the new thing anymore. Well, I think what I'll do here real quick, for those who are watching on YouTube, we'll wrap up the video right there. So I guess stay tuned and we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely hurts for the longtime SWTOR players, for people who have been really, really wanting more content. And it's not going to happen. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one.